Welcome to the next in our series on Seamus Heaney. In this video, we're looking at wintering out. I should remind you that these are not my thoughts, but the analysis that my father has undertaken of a poet he admires and a perspective that he developed. The poet is, of course, Seamus Heaney, and the analysis is that of David Foreword, OBE. It's his words that will follow. Wintering Out, published by Faber and Faber in 1972, is Seamus Heaney's third collection. Thanks to the depth of his knowledge, scholarship, and the open sincerity of his personal feelings, his poetry is rich in content and sentiment. The rewards for unravelling his messages are at once enriching, fortifying, and hugely pleasurable. In a very real sense, Heaney both entertains and educates. As Wintering Out reaches publication stage, the poet is in his early 30s. He and his wife have 2 sons under 5 years of age, with all the demands that young children make of parents over and above daily professional routines. On the domestic front, horizons have widened. Heaney has only recently returned from a year's sabbatical at the University of California in Berkeley in 70 to 71. The year brought him and his family into refreshing contact with new cultures and personalities, provided a sun-drenched climate, and left enough surplus income to enjoy all that was on offer. Prospects back in Ulster are much less rosy. At the beginning of 1972, he is living in Belfast with all the financial demands of a home and family, monthly payments for accommodation, income tax, services, transport, day-to-day subsistence. He has a modestly paid lecturer's post at Queen's University in Belfast. His wife's teaching career is on hold. Heaney is biding his time, but he has had enough and is ready to take a few chances and make changes in the direction of his life. Heaney believes his poetry is good enough for him to go it alone. The publication of a third collection meant that I had passed the stage where just writing poems was enough. I had passed the stage of probation and felt confident of vocation. It was time to lose the 9-to-5 life and to try and find a poetic life. Remaining in Belfast will be an obstacle to this. The city is not a comfortable place in which to live, given the deterioration of political and sectarian relations and the increasing cycle of murder and revenge. Ulster is in freefall. He has already been stigmatised in some Protestant quarters as a Catholic propagandist. He has received threatening phone calls from paramilitary groups. By a supreme irony, Catholic paramilitaries resent his refusal to become a spokesman on their behalf. What followed was seismic. By the time Wintering Out hit the shelves in late 72, the Bloody Sunday shootings in Derry and the Bloody Friday bombings in Belfast had taken place. Heaney had resigned his university post, put Belfast and his social and professional life in Northern Ireland behind him, and moved to the Irish Republic. The gamble of becoming self-employed hit him when the word poet replaced lecturer as profession of father on his son's entry forms at primary school, and of course the bills continued to land on the doormat. His wintering out period will consequently be replaced by new challenges, worries, and soul-searching. Michael Parker sums up the 7 years that follow. Years of pain and adjustment to pain, years in which the larger drama of our politics would preoccupy Heaney's private imagination. Indeed, the fractured society he has left will remain forever in the poet's mind. In California, the influence and friendship of Tom Flanagan, an Irishman teaching at Berkeley, had been immense. Flanagan unplugged Heaney from the English literature terminals of his education and enabled him to identify himself as a Northern Irish poet, attuned to the wound and the work of Ireland as a whole. For Heaney, a minority Catholic in troubled times dominated by Protestant loyalists, the collection's title, Wintering Out, was born of the everyday memories of cattle in winter fields, beasts standing under a hedge plastered in wet, looking at you with big patient eyes, just taking what came until something else came along. The scenario remains a thinly veiled metaphor for both Heaney himself and the Irish predicament. The collection contains poems that spotlight the simmering disillusion, the frustration, the resentment and impenitence of the dispossessed Irish, pitted against their Anglo-Scottish oppressors. There are poems celebrating the warmth of Heaney's childhood and the religious tolerance of his family as regards their immediate rural neighbours of both persuasions. Other poems celebrate the common ground that Heaney would want all of the people of Ulster to share: the beauty of its landscape and its rural pursuits, its place names redolent of a multi-layered linguistic inheritance, a mixed community united and enriched by the flow of his cherished local river, the Moyola. In a further development, Heaney has come across P.V. Glob's study of murdered bodies retrieved from Danish peat bogs and replicated in Ireland. It generates a poetic charge that will recur in succeeding collections. Michael Parker sums up the significance Heaney placed upon the discovery. It embraced the majority of Heaney's deepest concerns: landscape, religion, sexuality, violence, history and myth, provided an historical perspective enabling him to cope with and confront the contemporary troubles, and created a sense of continuity, kinship and affirmation at a time of social and political disintegration. The collection's mood is often chilly and disconsolate, couched in symbols of suffering and endurance, individuals and their desperate actions oppressed by the dark, cruel underside of the culture Heaney was bred in, victims of tribal superstition, ignorance and religious intolerance. He writes with empathy about illegitimacy and intimidated women, presenting his pieces both as chilling tales of private cruelties and guilt, and as parables for the state of Ireland and its moral paralysis. A short sequence of poems explores the strength and frailty within Heaney's closest circle, the feelings of a mother on her son's wedding day, the grief and remorse Heaney himself feels when his temper tantrum heaps distress on his wife, the children they share who help repair the injured relationship. So if the rookie Heaney concentrated on things he knew and felt comfortable with in Death of a Naturalist in 1966 and Door into the Dark of 1969, experience and events have awakened him to a host of hugely disruptive issues, all essential to his poetic development. If you feel inclined to look more closely at the collection and its individual poems, then why not go to foreby.com. Thanks for watching.